Hello guys, how are you? Welcome to Digital Cider Stream, episode number 4 of the week and episode number 48 of the entire series. Has been a beautiful journey and I loved so much to, have the pleasure to share these afternoons and these evenings with you all. I loved to, read all of your comments, see that you were going, deep into all of the, chats that I had with different people. We managed to speak about every single beer style so far, from Pilsners to double IPA, from stouts to sour. There has been beautiful people from the London scene, the UK scene, the European scene. And this week I really wanted to touch cider. And the reason because I wanted to touch cider is because sometimes it's a word where people do not feel really comfortable in. They don't know where to put it. Is it wine? Is it beer? Is it something else? So, I really thought that it would have been great to speak with 4 very different people from each other. So we had basically, people like Cider George, who's a very young boy, and he wanted to, almost like renew the cider word through graphic design, labels, and, give a different touch and look and feel, basically. And then we managed to speak with Felix Nash from Fine Cider, and Felix is a visionary. He tells stories, and then, he runs a company who distributes cider along the most beautiful restaurant and the best restaurants in London and beyond. He does have a clear idea about what cider used to be, is now, and should become. And then yesterday I managed to speak with Martin, my previous boss when I was at Clapton Craft. I like to think then everything that I knew about cider basically changed since I met Martin. And the reason for it is because he was giving me the journey. He was giving me the stories to think about the actual drink. He would have told me, a second before about an incredible juicy, strong beer. And then after an incredible, super complex wine. And in the middle, we were talking about cider. So this is the exact type of experience I'm looking for. If you go to a great pub and you find great beer, or if you go to a great wine bar and you find great wines, I can't see why you should see bottles like this one that I'm gonna drink today, which is apparently an incredible and sessionable, very interesting fruity cider, and it stands at 3.8% and is made by Lite Pomona, which if you are very interested about cider in the UK, you should really check it out. And again, I was missing one specific side of the cider industry, which is the making. So cider makers, someone who can really come, on your side and tells you all about cider from that point of view. And in my opinion, cider makers are basically making a magic, which is pretty interesting, because if you think about, wine is 1 ingredient and beer is 4 ingredients, but then in these days you can make wine, beer and cider with so many other ingredients, or maybe less ingredients but a different method, which is even more interesting for create experiences and beautiful journeys to consumer, because this is the most important thing. We're here chatting about how to find good things for our life, how we can maximize our existence time, enjoying something that you can find in the fridge, something that you can order at a bar, and this is what I wanted to share with every single person that managed to even connect for a single second on this series. So before becoming any kind of emotional or anything, again, this is the 48th episode of digital streams, and has been great so far. I wanted to wear a nice shirt, the one that I was when I was going to dance some reggae music in some of the best clubs in London, and I see that Roberto is on. So I'm gonna try to call him and see if he can join me straight away to the stream, so we can start chatting about what we like the most, the liquid. And tell us what you drink in the comment below. Tell us, do you drink beer now? You're drinking wine? What are you drinking? You drinking cider? Oh,
Hey,
how are
hey,
you, my friend?
Cabs, how are you?
Very good, man. Very, very hot today. It's 30,
Yeah,
29 degree.
probably 30 degrees in Italy now. It's
Wow.
evening. It's crazy.
Wow. Tell me again, in which part of Italy are you actually from right now?
Just west of Milan, basically.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm staying at my parents' house, that is like close to Saronno. I don't know if you know Amaretto di
Oh,
Saronno.
yeah.
And but like the project that I'm working about, so I'm actually working a little bit closer to Piedmont, still in Lombardy, but like on the Ticino River
Yeah.
that divides Lombardy and Piedmont. So yeah.
Oh, I mean, when I heard that you were going into this new discovery of a brand new project, I couldn't, stop my curiosity because no one knows exactly what's going on, really. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, but yeah.
I know you have a mission, and I would love to speak about this mission in a second. And normally I speak a lot at the beginning, but I also want to drink something with you. So as I said, I have this beautiful bottle from Little Pomona. So it's a pet nut style small cider with kins, and I don't know what pet nut means, so you need to help me with that.
Yeah.
I have
So
no idea.
pet is basically a must that is fermenting, so a juice that is fermenting, and just before the end of the fermentation, depending on what's the level of the carbonation that you want to keep in the bottle, you you bottle it, and that's the result. You have a
Wow.
lot of bubbles and gushing sometimes, but it can be
Okay.
really good.
Wow. And when the process is coming from, is it like, is he a French? Is more like a Basque?
It's like insider. It comes more from the word of natural wines, the word pet nuts, and it comes from France, where kind of um, it started a little bit with all the movement of biodynamic wine and kind of rediscovering the traditions in like really traditional winemaking. So just take the grapes in wine, in ciders, take the apples, press them, get the juice out, put it fermenting somewhere. Don't add anything usually. You can still add some yeast. There are different ways of doing it. And then just cap it, close it in a closed container and see what happens.
Wow.
It's a bit close to traditional methods, but traditional method like the champagne method, it's kind of more refined way to do it. So you want the wine that is like pretty clear, and the results it's really different.
First of all, this is something that is very unusual for me because I'm tasting minerality for the first time in a cider, like big
Okay.
minerality, which is surrounding the fruit as well, which I'm not 100% sure about how Kings normally taste because I think I had a few times and is in between apple, pear, and peach, kind of, right?
Oh, yeah, it can be.
So and then I'm expecting something definitely juicy and full mouth having in the first sip. So if you don't mind,
Definitely.
it's not actually that sweet. It really not. Ooh.
Yeah, that's one of the character of the pet nuts, because you basically finish the fermentation in the bottle. The product is usually quite dry.
Wow, it is, really is. And like I normally don't have the pleasure to speak with someone that can literally, translate the entire panorama of all the fermented beverages out there. And I had a little experience yesterday with Martin from the perspective for Instagram people, cider shit.
Yeah.
From the point of view of selling it and presenting it to the people. But I know with you, I can speak about the actual making and production of all of these ciders. I hope I didn't lost you. Let's see.
I can
Should be
still see
fine.
you.
Can you see me, yeah? I can't see you right now, but I know the UK have a couple of issues with the internet right now. But now it's better. Now it's much better. Let's see. Hopefully. Sorry, guys. Oh. Is it better now? But let's see how it works. Let's see, give me 1 second. If for some reason you can't hear me or can't see me anymore, I recommend to probably stop the video and then try to reconnect again, if you can do it, Roberto, because sometimes it's a bit crazy. Sorry, guys, but I've heard Instagram has been crazy for the last 2 or 3 days, and I don't know, stopping, and yeah, that's what happened. But I'm sure Roberto will connect again. So I was saying before, this is the last episode that I'm doing live on Instagram. The ones that are coming after this, they're gonna be definitely in a different platform. The reason is very simple. You have an incredible guest like the one that I had today, Roberto, and sometimes literally it stops completely and you can't reach the people anymore. So I'm thinking like to use probably YouTube on Twitch or like a different platform, because this is insane. I spoke with 48 people and I lost a couple of lives already, and I hope I can manage to have Roberto back on track again. But this is it, Okay, let's see. We should be able now to have Roberto back. So sorry, guys, but again, it's a bit crazy, as we both have probably full signal, but it's one of these things. And again,
Hey, Gab, just went to the toilet.
it's good. I would say now to the people that are following, Instagram is crazy. I need to change platform for do this kind of stuff. It's not trustable.
It might be my connection. Italy is kind of the third world.
Oh, come on. Do you mind if I just take it from where we left? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So I would love to let everyone who is watching this live today understand where are you coming from? What are your studies? What is your background? Do you mind to say it?
Yeah, so I started I try to make it quick. It's like really long and complicated, but basically when I was 16 years old, I started brewing beer. And then I got really passionate about fermentation and all about making things, kind of craft things. So I started studying by myself how to make beer. And then I did a university for winemaking. And after the university, I kind of joined the winemaking world. So I was enologist for at least 6 years. And then because I wanted to kind of change a little bit the environment, I tried this adventure in London, brewing for Brewhouse and Kitchen, where the first time I met you, and when I was in London, I was kind of happy to brew, but at the same time, I still wanted some new challenges. And as soon as I heard about this opportunity to try to make cider, that was something that I just slightly experimented before. I just jumped in. The project was really interesting, so I just wanted to be part of it. And at the end, we created the I would say one of the best craft cideries in the world now, or at least the most growing at the moment. So like the volumes are really growing up. And after 3 years of sweat and blood and cider making, I decided to open my thing. So I just come back to Italy, and let's see what's going to happen.
Wow. And how old are you? I mean, you already been free. You already lived 3 different lives, you know?
Yeah, I'm 62, but I look like really young. I'm 35.
Okay. And that is probably the perfect age to escape from London if you don't want to stay in London forever, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was appealing to stay in London because I love the city, and I think you love it as well. And I mean, it's such a nice life to stay in London, but kind of wanted to do something by myself, and I always had the idea that this something would have been like in a, or at least close where my roots are.
Okay.
So like I wouldn't, I don't know, I always had this idea, if I talking about my projects, that I should talk a little bit about my roots as well, and where I come from, and kind of bring something from here that I like outside, and try to change as well the way of thinking here. I mean, in the kind of in the little world of the drink industry, but like kind of, you know, you want to change the world a little bit, no?
Oh, well, yeah, good. We all should really in positive if we are good enough and yeah, totally. But you know, Roberto, like cider in Italy, is it a love story? There is a story to tell. Would be a completely like blank canvas, or are you surrounded already by interesting people and situation? Because I don't know.
You're talking about cider.
Yep.
Yeah. So that in Italy, it's like something that's basically at this time people are start to chatting about. And if you ask to some people, did you ever drink cider before? They would say no, basically. But at least like compared to like some years ago, they know what it is. Or some people replies like, oh, cider, I know it. It's kind of the new beer, something like that. And or there is this thing that's like, I mean, there is this thing that you ask people, have you ever drink cider before? And they reply like, no, never drank it. And then you ask them, have you ever had a strongbow before? And they say, yes, I had a strongbow, like in 2014 or something, when Strongbow tried to launch cider in Italy. But I think they kind of, they didn't try to launch cider. That was the problem, I think. They tried to launch Strongbow. So they tried to launch like something, it's like a brand. But here in Italy, I think the process needs to be like more more kind of organic. So we need to try to let the people understand what is cider and where it comes from, how cider was made as well in Italy, especially in kind of mountain regions, or but as well like in here in Lombardy. There were apple trees, there were vines. Now it's all land full of grains and wheat or maize or corn or soybeans. And it's a bit of a shame because the agriculture, it's like really monocultural here, but it's something that's it came just in the last century, because before a typical family farm was like really, I would say, complicated. There were so many species planted, and there were so many drinks, and there were so many fruits to taste and everything. So it's like it's something that actually changed in the sad history of the fascism. So in the 20s of the last century, Mussolini basically he had this idea of be autarkic. So because it comes actually from the Libyc war. So he got sanctions, he got fined by England and France. So he needed to pay taxes to import grains, like cereals and stuff like that. And then the reaction, his reaction was, we have to produce everything by ourselves. And that was like something that basically killed everything that was not cereals.
Yeah.
And it kind of kept, the winemaking industry, because it made this law that basically all the drinks that were not wine, you couldn't make it. Everything that was less than 7 or 8%, I don't remember, it was basically banned, apart from beer and wine. So cider basically disappeared at all, and but now it's coming back a little bit. There are some companies in Trentino opening, some companies in the south of Piedmont opening, kind of really interesting projects, and sometimes really connected to the a little bit of the natural wine industry. So it's interesting, and let's see what's going to happen.
Wow, especially because, you know, Italy, two things. One is the biodiversity that we have in our country is celebrated everywhere in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if we used to have 200 different types of apples, and maybe now we grow 3, 4, or 10. I don't know.
No, we have like I mean, we have plenty, probably around definitely around 1,000 or even more. I know one guy that is in Emilia-Romagna region, like in the center of Italy, and he basically cultivates in a sort of nursery. He basically sells plants of every species and everything, and just for the apple part, he owns like a nursery where you can get apples from 450 varieties, and that's like just for one nursery. It's like a really crazy high number.
Yeah.
450, and some of them in like they have been like renamed, or with the new names, because the previous one was completely lost. Some of them, they've been linked with other varieties that were studied by famous pomologists. Pomologist is the guy that studies like the fruits, basically. Like there was this famous pomologist of the 19th century that is called Molon. And he basically classified a lot of apple varieties, and it's really interesting because in some of the descriptions it would say like not really nice to eat, maybe cook it or make cider with it. So there was a little bit of cider knowledge as well. But of course there was this like during the centuries, like cider in England is almost a necessity, because grapes are are growing just probably in the last 50 years. I mean, the Romans brought it there, but they always struggled somehow. And in Italy, we always had grapes, and you know, grapes, you crush them and you press the juice with your feet, while apples, you need to press them in a press. So the decision was just to pursue the wine thing. Plus the wine, sometimes it's like it has more ABV. I mean, most of the time has more ABV, so it's more it has more shelf life. If you make it now, you can drink it for 2 or 3 years. Sometimes cider can be like a little bit more difficult, especially in the old times, to keep like a nice, healthy fermentation and keep it for more years. So it's something I think that has been put apart, and sometimes was drink by maybe a family that was growing vines and growing apple trees, but they would sell the wine because it was more worthy and just keep for them the cider. And sometimes there is this thing of the Piedmont cider that is called vin de pomme, that means wine of apples. And they were basically fermenting the juice on top of the red grape skins that were used to make wine. So the cider was actually always pink, and it kind of got the structure, a little bit of the tannins of the wine, despite like the apple varieties were kind of more softer than the usual cider varieties.
So we were already doing Italian grape cider, and no one knows about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, I never made it myself. I made it at Hawks.
Okay.
We did like 2 in collaboration with the Renegade Winery. It was a Tempranillo and Gewürztraminer. That were 2 ciders that were really interesting, especially the Gewürztraminer. Gewürztraminer is a wine that comes from Germany. It actually comes from northern Italy, the variety, but the name is German. Gewürz means aromatic, and Traminer is just the name where termeno, where it comes from. And it's really it's white grape, and it's really so aromatic, like muscat-like aromas. So it was so interesting to make. And this year, just before I left, we made Nero di Troia skins. That is like a one from Puglia that was made by Renegade Winery, and they send us basically the fresh skins to make it. So I think that they will release it soon.
I can't wait. I go Warwick now. Hello, mate. How you doing? What you got in there? And you know, another thing is the fact that we are surrounded by countries that are, I'm not saying big in cider making, but they have a bigger tradition for lack of history or any sort of reasons, like the Basque Country and France, and yeah, maybe, I don't know, Croatia, Slovenia, and the Balkans. I have no idea what's going on over there. So it's almost feel like an injustice that we don't have a proper cider scene in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's coming up. It's a shame that it has been kind of put apart, but it's coming up. It's a shame, especially because we are, I think, in Europe, after Poland, we are the biggest apple growing region in Europe after Poland.
There we go.
I think that the first one is China. In the world, there is China, maybe someone else. I think Poland and Italy, but we are basically like really focused in the quantity of the desert apples, and sometimes I mean, if if you go in the some of the orchards just planted to make desert apples, it almost looks like a cereal crop. It's you have plants that are like 80 centimeter, like really close each other, and basically it's like production, and then after 10, 12 years, basically the tree dies. So you will really rarely see like some traditional orchards around here, and I think that's one of the reasons as well why cider is kind of struggling a little bit here, but it's definitely coming.
And I would love to hear from you, for example, if whenever you decide to become a cider maker, is it like being a brewery or is it like being a winery, in terms of, is the biggest desire to own spots where you can grow your own apples, or a cider maker is happy to buy apples from, you know, other producers? Because I know there are, you know, agricole breweries in Italy. I'm thinking about Crack, I'm thinking about Baladan. They grow everything to make their products. So is a cider maker happy to just buy apples, or you want to also have your own trees?
Oh, yeah, I think like in the long term, you kind of always want to own the whole process. On the other end, but that's kind of yeah, that's the dream. That's the Thomas More utopia, I would say. But like in the real world, like especially in you probably know that in USA there is like a huge cider scene coming up.
Yeah.
And most of the cideries in America are making cider from juice that has been bought from someone else, apples that are bought from someone else, and some of them they will say like, I'm the cider maker. I let someone else to do like the perfect apples from me, and then I just focus in the cider making, kind of check in what's the quality of the apples. I think it all depends on what's the size as well of the thing that you want to make, what's the target that you want to kind of eat. So let's think about Hawks, for example, where I work for. We were like really focused in cider making and making something that could kind of push the boundaries and kind of make the people turn their heads, basically, or they're making a pineapple cider. That's so interesting. And that's a little bit different from the word that I don't know, Little Pomona comes from, for example, or Tom Oliver, for example. Tom Oliver actually buys most of the apples that he ferments, so it's like a, but it will do like it will make like it will have like his growers, so you can you don't have, I think, to make everything from beginning till the end to make a good product. You definitely need like kind of a good mentality, like a good mind, a good mindset to make like something good, and to kind of and if you are putting your name on the label, it's it's your responsibility that your apples comes from like a really reliable grower that are of good quality, and that the people that are working for you are doing like really quality products, and then you can put your name in the label. So it's like a combination of things. I really respect both the words, because like even because at the moment cider it's such a small word that I think all this kind of craftsmanship doesn't matter really the form that they are coming from, but if they are like craft products, I think that they all deserve to be drunk, tried, and maybe to be like successful at a certain point. I really respect. I'm actually following a Facebook page that is called Turbo Ciders.
Turbo Ciders.
And Turbo Ciders, and I don't remember the name of the guy that is running it. It's really nice, but I like cider because it's super democratic. So if you want, tomorrow you go to Tesco and you have all the ingredients and to make a little bit of cider in your house. I mean, it won't be like the super premium traditional method or anything, but at the end you'll be so proud of it that you will let it try to everyone in that you meet, basically. And that's really a good thing. And I like that page because they kind of they go really technical in explaining how to make cider from like baker yeast, for example, or from supermarket apple juice, and they just having fun, and I think it's a really good thing, and it's one of the things that we need to as cider makers we really need to promote, because we have to tell the people how they can make it if they want, and because as soon as you make something, the enthusiasm just skyrocket up.
Yep.
And it's a little bit like the craft revolution in USA. I mean, it started from like a bunch of really nice breweries, but like the real backbone of the revolution is this like army of home brewers that were brewing at home and making moonshine with the shitty beer that we're making and everything. I mean, that's the kind of the saltiness of it comes from there, from the people, and that's I mean, revolution started from the people always. Never from just a bunch of people that are making something like that can be super good, but you need really to teach the people, and yeah, you will see it. I mean, it's like it's so interesting, and well, it's this thing I learned it especially in my experience at Brewhouse and Kitchen. That sometimes like other brewers would tell me like, you worked at Brewhouse and Kitchen. Yeah, the small brew pubs with a little brewer inside. You were making just cask beer and kind of taking the piss a little bit. And but at the end, that thing of the brew day experiences, like a full Saturday with 8 people that are so interested in making something, and then in these 8 to 10 people there is always like a couple that go back home and try to make something, and then you would never expect it. After 4 or 5 months they come back with a bottle and they say, "Hello Roberto, do you want to try my beer?" And that's like I mean, it was the best moment in my like brewer's life. It's like I teach something to someone, and then he made something, and now he wants that I try it, and that's so good.
You know, you mentioned about the democratic side of the cider industry and the cider world, and I'm pretty sure that the reason because you, despite the fact you were into the wine world, a world which normally and traditionally isn't the most accessible and the easiest to deal with for prices and knowledge and privilege to work within that. Then you wanted to actually come back in our experience where you were like, you know, straightforward with the customers. They were asking you about what's happening in this glass. And then you jump to something that is even more like, you know, under the scene, try to understand everything, push boundaries. I love that attitude. So my question is, when you talk with your wine friends and beer friends, you telling them that now you are not just into cider, but you planning to have an experience that potentially could change the cider perception in an entire country. What is their face? How do you think they feel about that?
So I have really good friends in the wine industry, and they are really successful in the wine industry. And yeah, I mean the reaction it's really different because like most of them, they are winemakers or agronomists that they are working. They are basically my friends of university that I still have contact with them. And the interesting thing is that they are kind of really it's like a normal population. So there is the guy that would say that it doesn't even know what is cider. There is another guy that will say like, yeah, cider, I tried it. It might be interesting. Well, why don't you try to do something? And then there is another guy that says like, man, if I could make something from apple juice instead of grape juice, that would be like a life changer for me. So it's like Italy at the moment, basically. You know, that there is like different opinions, but they are really heterogeneous opinions. And I kind of like the fact that they have, because they know that they are in an industry where winemaking industry, it's like there is a huge competition in it. What pays of wine industry is basically that if you sell a bottle that is like a 75 centiliter bottle, 750 ml bottles of wine, you can still charge for something more. While if you sell something that is like a 330 ml bottle, it needs to be in a certain range. It cannot be like super high, or it becomes like I don't know, like the Imperial Stout 14% that is sold in 330 ml bottle and costs 15 quid.
Yeah,
doesn't pay the bills.
right.
What pays the bills is the pale ale or something that basically it's your flagship beer or cider, for example, that pays the bills basically. And so they come, these winemakers, they comes from an industry where there is so much competition in wine, and it's like it's a competition on prices, but not just prices, like in like how good you are perceived. But the thing is that the feeling is that it feels like a little bit that they are too many. So right. Basically there is a lot of competition. Cider at the moment looks like something, and that's what they envy me the most. Cider at the moment looks like something that's the more people join making it, the more people will talk about it, and the more people will drink it, and the more people will basically make their life around cider as well. Because I mean, there are some cider makers that maybe do it on Saturdays and Sundays, but they have other jobs. But like my project is to do something that's basically gives me food on the table, and kind of that is like something that can can work as a business and as a style of life as well.
And something I think it worked well in the UK recently, because ideally I divide cider drinkers and cider cultures in the UK in three main groups, which is the ones that are ordering wherever the bar have, you mentioned, a commercial type of cider before. I can say boomers as well, because if you're having a massive pint of ice with a bit of boomers inside, that's not the cider experience I'm looking for. And then there is that kind of style, and there is the people that normally are drinking the cider that they will find from years in the camera festivals. I call them the traditional cider drinkers. And then there is the fine cider aficionados. But to create the fine cider aficionados, even in a country like the UK, which is a cider drinker country, they had to find marketing people, create magazines, create wholesalers, making cider going to festivals, create events. Sometimes I think like we miss the guy who talk about cider in a bottle shop. We miss in Italy and probably some other places, we miss the guy who wants to work with cider from a label point of view, because the labels that I saw in Southern Europe are not really appealing as much as these are. And the third is stories. Who are the producers? Where are they working? How they get their hands dirty when they work on the, with apples. I want to know that. And I hope you will be the first stone to create all of that around you, because probably that's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it would be nice to have all these things. And there is like I know a little bit the situation of cider in England, and yeah, I mean that will help a lot. Everything that you told, and there is something needed to be done. I think that's one major thing that needs to be done is I mean everything that you told me, let's face it, needs money. You need money to do it.
Yeah.
And if you need money, you have to make money from somewhere. So like there is this thing that's as Oaks we were fighting for. That is basically the excise duty that is paid on cider. So basically, in England, if you are a producer big as Strongbow, that owns the biggest tanks in the world, the biggest stainless steel tanks in the world are owned by Strongbow. So we are talking about like massive things.
No, I think Nevada. Strongbow.
No, Strongbow. Yeah. They are. I think they are the biggest stainless steel 304 tanks in the world, and so that's the interesting thing is that how can a small cider maker. I mean, there is a thing in the cider industry that's up till 7,000 liter produced. You don't pay any duty in England, but 7,000 liter, it's what I was telling you before. It's maybe some people could make a living for one person, but if you do up to 7,000 liter, it's basically a Saturday, Sunday job.
Yeah.
So it's more like a hobby. You cannot make a living out of 7,000 liter per year.
Yeah.
And so you need to do more. But if you make more cider of 7,000 liter, you pay on the rate of duty per liter. You pay the same amount that Strongbow or like other bigger producers pays. So that's that's definitely the first thing that needs to be, I wouldn't say fixed, I would say like introduced, because like craft beer exploded in UK so late because the progressive duty relief was introduced in at the beginning of the year to I think 2003, something like that. From that year, they started opening. I don't remember who were the first, like Meantime in London, and then there were like after a couple of years, there were already like 6-7 breweries around of London, and then there was this huge boom after 2010 of breweries. But they can, that's with that kind of little thing of paying less duty, but kind of having the possibility to produce less, and still they can still make a living out of it, and they can hire people, and they can make like people interested about different beers, and they are making like a whole society around beer, and that's so good and so exciting. But I mean, it didn't. It's not that it happens at the beginning of 2003 for just a random reason. Just England woke up and realized that there was craft beer happening. No, because there was like a real help from the government. So like the government I think needs to do something about that, and I think the cider makers in England needs to focus really on these things. While when I go to some of the events about cider making, and there are some debates and everything, they are all really interesting, but sometimes they all end up on the juice content. So like we cannot make cider if it's 70% juice and 30% water, and bigger companies are doing cider with 35% apple juice and 65% water. It all kind of, it always kind of finished there. I mean, that's something that needs to change as well. But the thing that's kind of will make the thing work is not that. Is not telling everyone to make cider out of 100% apple juice, because then you are in the same, more or less in the same situation of before. Yeah. You need to basically make a progressive tax and let the smallest pay less, so they can thrive and do something more, and kind of give them an opportunity to basically grow and make something good. Because that's the thing, if you can be the best cider maker in the world, but you still need the opportunity to be that. And I was lucky to work for Oaks, because they gave me like a huge opportunity without me spending any money on it, so I could like experiment and do crazy stuff, and I grew up a lot, so I was so lucky. But you need like especially like when you are small, you really need some liquid, some real help. That means like some money, basically.
I remember the first time that I went to a Waitrose, there were 7 or 8 different bottles of Aspals, and I was going for the vintage one because I was looking for dry and tart and very in the face, and that gave me satisfaction. If I wouldn't find these products for a good price in a supermarket, I wouldn't now spend some different type of money buying bottles from producers that probably I never had stuff from, Hopburns and Black or Clapton Craft.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need to remember as well then, in Italy, the Unione Birrai, the Brewers Union, just started now to push craft beer, real craft beer in Carrefour and all the supermarkets. So if Italy is 10 years behind the UK with distribution of craft beer, well, cider has to move on very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
There is like a that's like a good anecdote what you told about Ospol's. I mean, Ospol's is it's quite a big company, but they make like some interesting things that are kind of mind opening somehow. And I was talking with a guy in America that owns like a small cidery in Michigan. It's called Artifacts. They make like really good ciders, and he was telling me the cider industry here in America, it was so successful in the last year. Like the small cideries I'm talking about, it was so successful because like all the stages are filled. So in America there is Artifact, that is quite a small cidery, not crazy big or anything. Then there is Agri Orchard, that is perceived of sort of good cider, but kind of crafty. You can find it everywhere. And then there is Strongbow as well. So Strongbow is like, I mean, it's made from concentrate and water, and it's sparkling and it's sweet, and it's good or bad. Let's say it's bad, but still it's there, and people actually, they start from there, from Strongbow, and they try something, then they try Angry Orchard because they realize they like cider, and then when the people that are really interested into it, they will go to Artifact and try other stuff. So sometimes there is a little bit of too much protection against the big guys, while sometimes it can be like really helpful for the small companies, that there are some other guys. So there is what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to erase them.
Yeah.
Like that you don't have to say that they are doing shit and they don't have the right to exist. They have the right to exist, but they are big, so they need to pay more. And we are small, and we want to do something as good and as sellable as like something that people could pay a little bit more about it. But like, give me something to do it, or if I don't have the opportunity, I'm not gonna make it.
Wow. I think we cover an interesting journey between your personal experience and what is the perception of two different countries, very different countries for this type of tradition. And we also cover what Italy will need to really smash that, apart from having Roberto in Italy and really making the best cider possible.
There are nice cideries around, and I tried their product, and they are making really good job.
Okay.
And when I find someone else in Instagram, the first that is making cider in Italy, the first feeling is like, oh, shit, I'm probably not the first one. But the straight after that, if you think about it, you need people that make it. So it needs to be like a community that talks good about each other, and they are actually making really good products. So it's like it's something that's when we are all ready to open, make cider, it's gonna help us.
I won't wait until the next live stream to connect with you, because I want to hear so much more from you about what's going on and everything. We do have 30 seconds left, and
yeah,
this is the last of the digital stream first season, I would say. I did 48. I can't do no more. I'm working on something bigger now, and hopefully we can do together going forward. Roberto, thank you very much. We have 9 seconds.
Thank you, Gabe. And
Thanks for watching.
thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.